everybody, this is Kimberly from Lakeside Loops, and today I'm going to show you how to make the Flynn fox socks. This is my fourth sock pattern, I believe. I love making crochet socks. They're so thick and so cozy. These socks can be made in several different sizes, all the way from itty bitty baby socks to adult men's and women's socks, kids, teens, all kinds of sizes are included in the instructions. You will need a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, as well as some lightweight yarn or DK yarn, size 3, 8 ply. I use Lion Brand's Touch of Merino, and this worked really well. The socks are really soft and cozy, and I liked the color options. They were perfect for these little critter socks. These socks are worked in the round from the toe up. They are very stretchy, so they fit a variety of sizes, and they're not very difficult to put on. Sometimes with crochet socks, they can be kind of stiff and hard to put on, but these ones aren't bad. They are very thick, so they're definitely more like a slipper sock than a traditional sock that you'd wear inside of a shoe. And yeah, that's about it. You will need the written pattern in order to follow along with this video tutorial. As with all of my video tutorials, they're just meant to accompany the written instructions. So you can actually find this full written pattern for free on my blog, lakesideloops.com. You can also download the PDF version, so there's no ads, it's printable. You can purchase that from Etsy or Ravelry if you would prefer. But you will need either to go to my website or purchase the downloadable PDF in order to follow along with this video. I'm just going to be going over the trickier parts of the written pattern in this video tutorial. It's not a full video tutorial. Again, you will need those written instructions. All right, so for these socks, you will need 3 different colors of yarn. So color A is what you see in white here. It was used for the toe, these stripes, the heel, and part of the face. Color B is the gray that you see. So these dark stripes and then part of the face up here. Color C, the third color, is what I used for the ears, which is black, eyes, and nose. So you could do, as you saw, I had a orange striped fox sock. You could even do like a really fun green color and do kind of monster socks if you wanted, and use the green again for the ears and leave out this third color if you wanted. All kinds of different options. I'm really excited to see how you guys use this pattern to play around and create your own cute little critters. And these socks start out the same, sorry, I hit the camera. These socks start out the same way, but when you get to the heel, there are left sock instructions and right sock instructions when you get to the heel, so that when you're wearing your socks, there is a seam, and I wanted that seam to be on the inside when you're wearing the socks, so that you can't see from the outside, and so that the socks look like a pair of socks and not just like you made 2 of the exact same sock. So there is a seam, and the instructions do sort of veer in gosh, I hit the camera again, and the instructions veer in 2 different directions when you get to the heel, so that the socks look like this with the seam on the inside. I did not weave in my ends, so that's why I'm trying not to show the top of the socks. Also, when the socks are worn, these ears do stand up better, but when they're just like this, they kind of flop down a little bit. But as you can see in the pictures that I took for this pattern, when my kiddos are wearing them, the ears do stand up. So let's start with round 1. All right, so for round 1, I've attached my yarn to my hook here, and we're going to chain, we're going to chain 3. So 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to work 9 double crochets into the 3rd chain from the hook. So this very first chain that we created, I'm going to fit my hook in, and I'm going to work 9 double crochets. And this will, as we add more and more double crochets, this will start to turn into a circle. So I've got 2, 3, you can kind of already see things are starting, this is kind of turning in my hand here. 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so I've made kind of a circle here, and I'm just going to join this with a slip stitch to the top of my beginning chain, just like this. And that is round 1, so pretty simple. Round 2, this is where we're going to start getting into front post stitches. So we're going to work 2 front post double crochets around each stitch. So, sorry, I'm going to chain 2 to start. So I've chained 2, and now I'm going to look down at my very first stitch, which is right here, this guy, and I'm going to work a front post double crochet. So I'm going to go from the front to the back, and then back around to the front of my stitch again. So I'm working around that post. I'm going to grab my yarn and pull it through to the other side, and then I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2 to complete my double crochet. Now I'm going to work a second double crochet around that same stitch. So again, I'm going to start from the front and go to the back, and then I'm going to come back through to the front so that I've got my hook around the post, and I'm going to grab the yarn and pull it through, and yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. So I've worked 2 front post double crochets around that same stitch. Now I'm going to move on to the next one. Again, I'm working around the post, grabbing that yarn and pulling it through. There's 1 front post double crochet and a second front post double crochet. Get a little closer for you here. So my hook's around that stitch, the post of that stitch. That's 1 double crochet. Now around that same stitch post again, just like that. So again, we're not working into the stitches, we're not working into that stitch, we're working around the post to create those front post double crochets. So I'm just going to continue to do that all the way around. Alright, so I'm at the end of round 2, and I'm just going to join to the top of my beginning chain with a slip stitch to finish off this round. Now for round 3, I'm going to chain 2 again, and I'm just continuing on doing those front post double crochets. I'm going to do 1 front post double crochet around this first stitch, and then I'm going to work 2 front post double crochets around the next stitch. So you kind of have to sometimes move your stitches to the side so you can see what stitch is next. But 1 front post double crochet around the next stitch, 2 front post double crochets around the stitch after that. So it should look like this. We're growing our circle. Alright, so I've skipped ahead here and I'm at the end of round 3, and I'm just going to join to that beginning chain with a slip stitch. Now for the baby size, which is the one that I'm going to be working up for this video tutorial, after round 3 it says to stop there and to skip ahead to round 7. So round 7 says to chain 2 and then just to front post double crochet all the way around. Alright, so I've skipped ahead here again and I've completed round 7 and round 8, which was just the same as round 7, front post double crocheting around. If you're ever unsure what round you're on, you can flip over to the back side, and each of these rings will represent a round. So round, try pointing with my hook, round 1, round 2, round 3, and then we skipped ahead to round 7, and round 8 is this last circle here. So for round 9, this is where we switch to a different color and we begin our stripes. So I am going to grab my gray yarn, in my case, mine's going to be a little gray fox sock, and I'm going to pull my gray yarn through this loop. Oh wait, I did that wrong. I'm going to pull my gray yarn through my loop, and then I'm going to pull tight on that white end to tighten that up. And then what I usually do is I tie the end of my gray to what will be the end of my white. I will either cut my yarn here, or you can just let it hang and then pick it up again on the next round as we alternate between the colors. But either way, I will tie this gray end to the white yarn to kind of help secure it and lock it in place there. Two quick little knots, just like that. Now we're ready to roll with our gray yarn. And this round is the same as round 7 and round 8. We're just chaining 2 with our new color. 1, 2, and then front post double crocheting around our round. And I do not carry my white yarn around the round with me because I will need to pick it back up again when I join this round. Also, you will notice that your rounds are starting to kind of curve like this. Eventually, the goal is to sort of fold all that in and work our sock like this. So just front post double crochets all the way around. All right, so I'm at the end of round 9 and I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the top of my beginning chain. And I, for the next round, round 10, need to switch back to color A. So I'm going to grab that white yarn that I dropped on my previous round, and I'm going to loop it through, and then I'm going to pull this gray yarn really tight. And I could tie this here, but I find just pulling it tight works because then as I'm alternating back and forth, it's staying sturdy enough. So I just start using my white. I'm going to chain 2, and then again I'm just going to front post double crochet all the way around. Going around each stitch. All right, so I've skipped ahead here again, and I've completed round 12, which for the baby sock is where we move on to round H1. So this is where we're going to start working on our heel. We're right here, so we're going to do an increase where our heel is going to be on both sides. You can kind of see, I don't know if you can see, but this section here, we're adding an increase every round until we get to here, and then I'll show you how to work this part of the heel up. So if this is your first sock, you can do either, you can follow the instructions for the right sock or the left sock, and then when you make your second sock, just follow the opposite. So I'm going to go ahead and follow the instructions for the right sock. So it says to chain 2, or sorry, switch back to color B. So I'm switching back to my gray, pull that through on my white. All right, so now I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to front post double crochet around the next 15 stitches. So what we're doing, like I said before, so this is where we're at on this sock, and I'm front post double crocheting around the next 15 stitches, and then you're going to see we're going to do something a little bit different right here. So all right, so I skipped ahead here and I've done 15 front post double crochets. Now around this next stitch we're going to work 2 front post double crochets. So there's 1, and now around that same stitch we're going to work a second one. Just like that. And now we're going to continue with our front post double crochets for the next 10 stitches. All right, and we have 1 stitch left. We're going to work 2 front post double crochets again around this last stitch, but we're going to do them a little bit differently. We want our second front post double crochet to be above the first on this post, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I am going to work 1 front post double crochet. So I've got 1 around the stitch. Now normally I would grab my yarn and I would go below that stitch and work a second front post double crochet. But we want to go above that stitch and then behind the post to work our front post double crochet. And what this will do is, now the first front post double crochet that we made is sort of a little bit in front of the second one that we made. Whereas on the opposite side, the first one that we made, this one right here, is a little bit behind the second one that we made. And the reason we're doing this is because you can see on this sock that's already done, these stitches sort of fall in behind, and this creates a really nice line right here for our heel section. And then on the opposite side, where we worked the second front post double crochet above our first one on that stitch, again, these stitches kind of sink in behind, and these stitches kind of are above and create like a nice look for our heel. So that is what I mean by that. So I'm just going to show you one more time because that's kind of important to the look of the sock. So for that last stitch, it's a front post double crochet, and normally we would just go right below that and create a second front post double crochet, but we're going to sort of pull that stitch down a little bit, make sure I've still got my yarned over, but I'm going to go behind the stitch that we just made and put my front post double crochet above my first one on this stitch post. This is definitely the hardest part of this pattern, is just getting those stitch placements correct. And it's not the end of the world if you don't. Basically, this part will just look a little bit different, but it's on the inside of your sock. So not a huge deal, but if you want them to look like the ones in the pictures, that's how to get that look. Now I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the top of my beginning chain, and I'm going to switch back to color A, and round H2 is very similar. I'm just crocheting around 16 front post double crochets, and then when I get to this stitch right here, I'm doing 2 front post double crochets, and then same with this stitch. I'm doing 2 front post double crochets, but the second one will be above this one. And then I'm finishing with a front post double crochet around this last stitch. All right, so I've skipped ahead here even more so you can kind of get an idea of what we're trying to do. So this is what your sock should look like if you're working on the right sock. You can see here my front post double crochet where I've done 2 of them is sort of making the bottom of the sock veer this way on that side where my seam is, and then things are kind of starting to separate here on this side. So for round H4, I'm switching back to color A, and now I'm going to chain 2, and I'm going to front post double crochet around the next 18 stitches because I'm working on the baby size. So I'm going to front post double crochet all the way until I get to just before this curve. All right, so I've completed 17 front post double crochets. Number 18 is going to go, around this little guy. And now I'm going to work 2 front post double crochets around this next stitch. So there's 1, and for my second one I'm going to go just below around the same stitch and work a second front post double crochet. So you should have something that looks like this, and then I'm going to continue with my front post double crochets again until I get to this curved section here. Alright, so I've completed my 10 front post double crochets after this spot where I did 2 front post double crochets and I'm at the next curve. So again, I'm going to work 2 front post double crochets around this stitch. There's my first one, and my second one, again, instead of going below that first one, I'm going to work it above the first one so that it will fall behind that first front post double crochet. Now I'm going to go in here and work three more front post double crochets to finish off my round. And then I'm going to join with a slip stitch. So again, if you're working on the right sock in the baby size, this is what your sock should look like. And we've completed, you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've completed up to this first part of the sock, and I'm going to show you how we do this part of the heel. So if you're doing the baby size like I am, you will be skipping ahead to row H7. On row H7, we're going to continue using color A. Sorry, my yarn is wrapped around here. All right, so we're going to continue using color A, which in my case is this white color, and we're going to turn. So we're going to turn our sock like this. So we're working from the inside, and we're going to slip stitch into the next 3 stitches. So you see these stitches here, 1, 2, 3. Those are the stitches we will be slip stitching into. So if you wanted, you could use a stitch marker to sort of keep track of where you're putting your stitches, but you're just going to insert your hook into this first stitch, grab your yarn and pull it through to complete a slip stitch, 2, and 3. Now we are going to skip the next stitch, which is this 4th stitch that was inside of this section of our heel, and we're going to back post double crochet around the next 12 stitches. So we're skipping this one. Let me grab my hook and make it easier to show you. So we've slip stitched into these 3. 1, 2, 3. We're skipping this stitch, and we're going to be back post double crocheting around this stitch and the next 11 stitches after that. So a total of 12 back post double crochets, and we're ending right here with this one. This is number 12. So this section where the curve is on both sides, these are the stitches we are back post double crocheting around. So I'm going to go back in, grab my yarn here. I'm going to go back in, I'm going to yarn over, and I'm going to just flipping it around and make sure that I'm working my back post around the right stitch. Grab my yarn and pull through 2. Grab my yarn and pull through 2. Oh, my yarn came apart there. Let me try that again. Sorry. Alright, so I'm going to yarn over. I'm going to make sure I'm working around the right stitch. And complete a back post double crochet. So again, I'm going in from the back to the front and to the back again to complete a back post double crochet. So I'm yarning over, I'm going from the back to the front to the back, grabbing my yarn and pulling it around, yarn over and pull through two, yarn over and pull through two. So just like this, all the way around until I've completed 12 back post double crochets. And as you can see, again, I'm working around this section of stitches. So between what's in between my thumbs is where I'm adding those back post double crochets. All right, so as you can see, I've skipped ahead here and I've done 12 back post double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Now it says to skip the next stitch and slip stitch into the stitch after that. So again, we have these sort of lower down stitches. We're skipping this stitch and we're slip stitching into the next one. So skipping this stitch and I'm slip stitching into the following stitch. Now what we're doing, or what you will see we're doing, is we're creating bigger stitches here that are going to start to curve up because we're closing off where we had our increases here. We're sort of creating a back to that and closing that up. We're going to curve this up and eat into these stitches every time. So we're doing this section here. All right, so for row, we're in rows. Row H8, I'm going to continue with color A. I'm going to turn. So I was working from the inside of my sock. Now I'm going to turn. So I'm looking at the outside of my sock again. And I'm going to front post double crochet around the next 12 stitches. So again, we're just working around these stitches along the back. I'm not even going to chain anything. I'm just going to immediately dive into my front post double crochets. Whoops. That was a half double crochet. Let me try that again. So I'm just going to immediately dive into my front post half double crochets. Sorry, gosh, my front post double crochets. We're going to do 12 front post double crochets. My hook slipped and I'm all over the place now. So 12 of these front post double crochets, working around each of these stitches along the back of my sock. So with each of these rows, we're subtracting one of our increase rows. So we are going back to our original circumference that we had with the toe. We sort of increased it for this heel section, and now we're going to shrink it back down to create the top of our sock. So I don't know if you can see in this video well enough, but I have two more. I can see sort of the back section of the sock, and I have two more front post double crochet stitches left. And now I'm going to skip the next stitch and I'm going to slip stitch into the following stitch. So I already skipped this stitch in my first row. So I'm skipping this stitch now and I'm slip stitching into this next stitch. Just like that. Now for row H9, again, I'm just going to continue using this color A. I'm going to turn, so again I'm working from the inside of my sock, and I'm going to back post double crochet around the next 12 stitches. So this is just like this first sock row that we did. I'm just working around those back stitches on the back of my sock. So I'll flip this around and show you here. So I'm just working around these back stitches until I get to here again. Right, so I've skipped ahead here. I've completed my 12 back post double crochets. This is what that looks like. Now I'm going to skip the next stitch and slip stitch into the following stitch. We already skipped this stitch and slip stitch into this stitch. So now we're skipping this stitch and slip stitching into this stitch. Getting my skipping and my stitching and my slipping words all mixed up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, we're slip stitching into this fourth stitch from our curve, if that helps you if you were unsure. So grab my yarn here. We're slip stitching right into that stitch. Now, if you're working on the baby size, again, you're going to skip some rows here, and you are going to skip. Goodness, I can't get that. There we go. Oh no. There we go. You are going to skip to row H12, and row H12, again, we're going to continue using color A. We're going to turn, and we're going to front post double crochet around the next 12 stitches. So let me grab this first one here, and we're just going to work our way around the back of our sock, around the back of our heel here. All right, so I've completed all 12 of my front post double crochets, and now I'm going to slip stitch into my beginning chain or seam. And what I mean by that is right into here. So our original seam that we had when we were working up our sock, that's what we're going to be slip stitching into, and that's going to take this stitch and sort of fold it up, and we'll slip stitch right into our beginning chain, and that helps create this curve of our heel here. Now for the leg of the sock, which is the part that we're on now, we're going to go back to working in the round, and I'm going to switch back to my color B. So I'm going to grab that, pull it through, tighten my white, and chain 2. And now I'm going to front post double crochet around the next 15 stitches. All right, so I've skipped ahead here again, and I've front post double crocheted around 15 stitches. Now we're going to front post double crochet around the heel seam. And what I mean by this is, if I were to go straight from here to front post double crocheting around here, let me just do it and show you. You're going to have a big old hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to front post double crochet around this seam that we created when we were closing up our heel. So I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to insert my hook. It really could be anywhere. You could go down in here, up into here, which is what I'm going to do. And we're just going to create a front post double crochet stitch. And that's going to help fill in that gap where our heel seam is. And it's going to make the leg of our sock a little bit wider and comfier because we're going to have that extra stitch in here that we didn't have down here. So now that we've done that, we're going to work our way around the back of our sock. So I'm going to front post double crochet around the next 12 stitches. All right, so I've completed that, and now again we're going to front post double crochet around our heel seam. So I'm just going to go in and anywhere you can fit your hook along that seam, just create a front post double crochet just to fill in that gap. And then I'm going to join with a slip stitch to the top of my beginning chain to complete round L1. So that is what it looks like. Half your sock done and the sock finished. So we're just going to go back to alternating our colors and just doing front post double crochets all the way around. Easy peasy. You did this before at the bottom of the sock. And then I will come back to you and show you what to do with the face. All right, so I've skipped ahead here again and I've completed L8. So it says in the pattern to continue building this up until a certain height. In the case of the baby, it's 8 from the heel. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But you really could go as high or as low as you wanted. You don't have to follow the 8. You can do whatever you'd like to do, depending on the size that you're making. Now we're going to switch back to color B, and we're going to be working on round C1. So this is the cuff of the sock, this section here. So the face, and you can see the stitches are a little bit different. So instead of doing front post double crochets, we're going to be doing front post single crochets, and that's how we get these small little stitches. But because they're post stitches, they still continue to line up with the stitches that we had done in previous rounds. So I'm starting with my color B, my gray in my case, but I'm also going to need my third color, color C, and that will be for this nose right here. So we're going to be working around on this first round, and I'm going to need the black for that nose. Or you could do pink, whatever color you'd like to use. You could do white, whatever floats your boat. So for round C1, switch to color B, and I'm going to chain 1. Oops. Here. There we go. Chain 1. And I'm going to front post single crochet around the next 7 stitches. So instead of yarning over, I'm just going to go around my stitch like that and do front post single crochets. Now I'm going to pause here. I've completed 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need to complete 2 more, but I'd like to start carrying my black yarn behind my round so that it's ready to use on that 8th stitch. So I'm going to hold it behind my round like this, and I'm going to take my hook and put it behind the stitch. I'm going to push the black yarn down so that when I put my hook back through to the other side, that yarn is trapped. Grab the gray and pull it through and complete my single crochet. So that black yarn became trapped by my gray yarn. So I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to have the yarn, the black yarn on top of my hook, and then I'm going to push it down like this and go around to the other side of my stitch grab that gray yarn and complete my single crochet. And now again, I've trapped the black yarn behind my round. Now I'm ready to switch to my color C, and I'm going to front post single crochet around the next stitch. Now, if you've done color work before, sometimes you would complete your current stitch using the color that you need for your next stitch. You don't have to worry about that in this pattern because we're doing front post stitches. So the top, this part of the stitches will be covered up by the front post stitch in the next round. So I'm just going to drop my gray. I'm going to grab my black. I'm going to put my hook around the stitch. I'm going to grab my black and complete my single crochet. Now I'm going to drop the black. I'm going to grab the gray and I'm going to complete a gray stitch. And now I'm just going to trap my black yarn behind my work for a couple of stitches before I leave it behind. All right, so I've trapped it behind a couple of stitches. Now I like to just leave my black yarn there, work my way around, and then cut this, leave a little tail, and weave in these two ends. Come back later and weave in these two ends. So I'm going to continue to work around. I'm just going to leave the black yarn hanging out where it's hanging out. And I'm not going to worry about it right now. Like I said, I'll cut it and weave in those ends. With the next couple of rounds, you're going to be creating this white part of the face. These eyes will add later. So you're just creating the white part of the face. And you could choose to carry that white yarn all the way around your round with you. What I liked to do was drop it and then just pull it back and forth as I needed it. So I would start using it about here. I would hold it behind my row like I just showed you with the black, or my round, sorry. And then I would pick it up and use it. And then I would switch to the gray and then pick up and use the white. And then I would hold the white behind my round for a couple of stitches and then I would drop it. And then when I came back to the next round, when I needed the white again, I would just gently pull the white yarn over and leave some slack and start using it around those stitches. So the white just hangs out here and it's not carried all the way around the back of the sock, and I felt like that made it a little easier to wear the sock. The sock's a lot stretchier. If I were to carry that white yarn all the way around with me, it kind of makes the sock stiff. It's not as flexible because there's a straight string sort of being carried all the way around and there's no give in that, versus leaving it here. This part doesn't have as much give, but the back of the sock does. So just a thought. And again, this looks messy because I haven't weaved in my ends, but once I go around and weave those in, it won't look quite so messy. So that is how you would do the black nose and then this white part of the pattern. All right, now adding the eye is really easy. You just need your crochet hook and a little piece of black yarn or whatever color you want the eye to be. On the face, I'm not working on this top round. I'm working on the next one down, and I'm working on this stitch, the second stitch in. So 1, 2, this one. And I'm just going to put my hook, from the inside. And sorry, this is tricky to do on camera. There we go. I'm going to poke it through on one side of the stitch and pull that black yarn through. And then I'm going to poke it through on the other side of the stitch and pull that black yarn through. I'm going to take a look at it, make sure it's where I want my eye to be, that it's in line with my other eye that I have there. I like the look of it. Okay, now I'm going to go inside and I'm just going to move these threads from the ear out of the way. So I'm going to go inside, and I'm going to take these 2 black ends of the eye, and I'm just going to tie a knot. Not too tight, because I don't want my eye to look odd on the other side. And I'm going to tie it again to make sure it's really secure. And that is the eye. Then I would weave these ends in, maybe trim them a little more and weave them in. And that is how easy it is to do the eye part. Now I'm going to show you the ear. All right, so for the ears, we want to line them up. Oops, sorry, I hit my camera there. We want to line them up. We're going to use the 3 stitches directly above the top part of the face here. So you can see on all my socks, I was working into these 3 stitches that are directly above each eye. And in the written pattern, it'll tell you what stitch to work into. But you're just going to put your hook into the stitch, grab your black yarn. Actually, hang on here. Let me cut a fresh piece. There. All right, so you're going to grab your yarn and pull it through, and then you're going to chain 1. That just sort of helps lock that thread in there. Now into the next stitch, you're going to work a half double crochet, a treble crochet, so I'm going to yarn over twice into the same stitch, 1, 2, 3, and another half double crochet. So that was all into the same stitch, and now I'm going to slip stitch into the 3rd stitch to finish off my ear. Just gonna pull my yarn through, and then finish off my end there, and that is the ear. So it's got a little curve to it. Pretty cute little guy. It's hard to see with this black yarn. There we go. And then what I did was I took these 2 ends and I tied them together before weaving in those ends, and that just helped secure my ear so it didn't go anywhere. And then I just weaved in those ends. Or I'm lying to you, actually. I have not weaved in very many ends. I have just left them, but I will weave in the ends. Okay, well that is it for this video tutorial. I really hope that you found this helpful and that you enjoy making these socks. They work up quickly. They're a great gift. My little ones love them for keeping their feet warm in these cold Canadian winters and fall. I look forward to seeing your sock pictures online. I always love seeing the different colors that you use, how your little ones use them or how you use them. So please don't forget to tag me at Lakeside Loops. Thank you so much.